We're at the crossroads where the two forbidden subjects of politics and religion intersect. This is the Sophie Scholl Roundtable. With me again, so glad he's here, is Kurt Olson. And why don't we just jump right into it? In other words, let's see how politics intersects with religion by way of Exodus chapter 18, verse 21.
Verse 21. Just some context. This is Jethro, Moses' father-in-law, talking to his son-in-law, and Israel's getting bigger. They need to have people in charge of groups of people. And, pardon me, I did not bring my glasses, and I should have.
I look at verse 21. I got it right here.
Go
but
ahead, read
select capable men
Yes.
from all the people who fear God,
Fear.
trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain. Appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s.
Yes. It is. You'll probably run into people who will say, well, that's the Old Testament, that doesn't apply. I don't agree. I don't agree. Basically, what Jethro tells his son-in-law, Moses, character counts. And I would argue that even as believers in the United States and America, we are far too inclined to run with party affiliation or a platform rather than scrutinizing this character. Now, I will add, the media doesn't help.
Yeah.
They do a lousy job of allowing us to vet candidates. They do a pathetic job of helping citizens who want to be informed of being able to make those assessments on people. But yeah, I mean, this is a very clear pattern here, and it's basic character.
Yeah.
We should be focusing on character.
Right. And in rebuttal to those who say that this is Old Testament irrelevant to the New, I mean, I would say, is dishonest gain irrelevant to the New Testament? Is
like somehow in the Gospels, Jesus said, "Yeah, if you're a swindler, come on in." He never said that. In fact, he walked into a synagogue and he flipped over tables when they were engaging in something that could be at least in that category.
Yeah.
So anyways.
Yeah. So I think you're so right on the money or right on the mark when you see these four characteristics of an individual having leadership over a people in a political sense. And those four characteristics are capable men, fear God, trustworthy, and who hate dishonest gain.
Right. That's pretty basic stuff. And the average person, you don't need a doctoral dissertation on character to be able to decipher that.
Right. And I think, and let's get down to some real nitty gritty. It's going to be coming up, our special election.
Yeah.
Here for the 23rd District in New York. How well have we assessed the characters of those who are planning to run?
Great question. And, I mean, we probably know a whole lot more about Carl Palladino than we do perhaps Nick Langworthy. But Carl Palladino has pretty much written his own... What do you want to, if you want to call it his own tombstone? Political tombstone or otherwise. Why? That was my biggest question when I heard this. Why? Who thought this was a good idea and why? I have really no time for Carl Palladino.
Do you really struggle with, with the characters? That's far more important. But as far as I know, both of those who are vying for the position don't live in the district.
Well, here's what they did. When the special master came in, remember that there was these overwhelmingly gerrymandered districts, and it got challenged in court. So there was a special master that came in. Now, the southern tier, we had Chautauqua, Cattaraugus, whatever the number of the counties across the southern tier, and then to get their numbers right, they would go north of Cattaraugus, north of Allegheny. They would go into Livingston and Yates and a few of those other counties up there. No, what the guy did is kept the district across the southern tier. Then he went into southern Erie County. And the moment I saw that, I was like going, we're going to get a representative who is not from any one of those whatever number of counties across the South. And sure enough, that's what's going to happen. And I don't know. I'm not surprised by the way it happened, but when you have Democrats that don't follow the law, and there was a plan set forth, there needs to be a redistricting plan that comes forth. They have absolute power, and to remind people, absolute power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Or power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. I guess that's the quote. And so the Democrats and all, we thought they could do whatever the stink they wanted, and it didn't matter what a judge said. So when a judge kept saying no, what's a judge supposed to do? Well, I'm going to have my own guy do this for you. And no, the Democrats don't like certain things because they have certain incumbents that are running against one another in New York City and the suburbs of New York City. So they have their own issues. But when you bring it close to home, it created a scenario where we now have, at least on the GOP side, someone who is from Erie County. And when I saw this, I'm like going, okay, so I'm going to assume the more conservative people probably live in southern Erie County, but the idea that both of them are from Erie County, I'm sure it doesn't sit well with anyone in Chautauqua or anywhere else, but it is what it is. And it's by nature, and we're going to have to wait till 2030 now.
Yeah, right.
If this becomes the district, this is going to be the district for at least a decade.
Yeah.
So,
although I would say it's a better district than what we had for just a short time span when Erie County was next to Chautauqua County.
Yes, I would agree. And wasn't that Brian Higgins who became the U.S. rep? Yeah,
that was a nightmare.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, whoever thought that up when they were in a drunken stupor was just a bad idea.
I know. Well, one of the things I love what Kurt does on his Facebook page is he'll put up posts there that are real thought provokers. I'll just mention a few. The worst problem for Trump, besides himself, are the Trump supporters who feel duped for taking the vax.
That one is actually mine. I didn't steal it. And that just generated from just some of the stuff that I've been reading. And some of the people who I believe have credibility in just how they see winds flowing in politics. The harsh reality is there is still there's a core group of people that still think Donald Trump was not just ripped off, but he should be the next president. But there's an awful lot of evidence that is mounting and growing that indicates that people on the right are prepared to move on, and they want to move on. And one of the questions I would pose to people is, okay, if Trump were to be elected for a second term, when he leaves office, he would be 82. Do you really want that? In light of what we are now experiencing with the guy in his late 70s. Not to put down anyone who's in their 70s, their 80s, whatever. The harsh reality is we are beginning to see, even, who was it, the New York Times, the New York Post this week, started asking questions about the president's...
I think it was the Times, New York Times. He's too old.
His mental well-being. And I think it probably came from the little speech where he literally read every line, and at some point when you're reading the teleprompter, you're supposed to just stop.
Yeah.
Don't read everything. Don't do that. And he did. And of course, when he did that, he immediately opened himself up to mocking and scorn, and there's probably already Facebook and YouTube memes there and GIFs that are already out there on this, so whatever. But yeah, I mean, Donald Trump, people keep saying the sooner he gets in. I heard people say it was going to happen July 4th weekend. It hasn't happened. And the thinking is, well, I need to blunt, Ron DeSantis or Nikki Haley or whoever jumps in later. My biggest concern on the right is that they're going to have a field of like 14,000 people. And they're going to get the lowest common denominator rather than a real quality person who has character.
Right.
Because we've been able to scrutinize him or her.
Right. Yeah, the character factor. I know. There's a question I was just going to ask you, but it jumped my mind, so I'm going to go on to the next one.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about just the vax real quick. I'm glad I didn't take it, though I heard Trump say again and again, take the vax. I'm sorry, I didn't take it.
He's avoiding certain statements about it now. I read something earlier this week. He was in Alaska at a town hall because I believe they have a special election coming up. And he's got a candidate there, I don't know who, Sarah Palin.
I think it's Sarah Palin.
Okay,
yeah,
whoever it is. And he didn't say much about the vaccine. He knows there are people who they're done.
Yep.
I was at one of my doctors a week ago. And this is a doctor who probably a lot of people in the Jamestown area just know by the name. And this person has a wife who's a pediatrician. And the demand for the toddler vaccine is zero. Zero. No one wants their kid to have it.
Yeah.
No one. And I mean, there was like a certain number of people that initially got it for their kids, and then it just tanked. And question, how many doses did they make? How many of those doses are going to go bad because there's no demand for it? We're going to read about that probably in the next 3, 4, 6, 9 months. How many vaccine doses for kids between 6 months and age, 4 or 5, they made them for, but they weren't taken. Because we've already had stories of vaccine doses that were not used. It's a thing. And I have not taken the vax, and I have no qualms about not doing it.
Yeah.
I have natural immunity.
Yep.
And everything that I read indicates natural immunity is far greater than any jab anyone is ever going to get.
Yep. I know. I totally agree with that. And now we're hearing word about another variant.
There's another variant, but guess what? It seems to be attaching itself to people who've been dosed and boosted. there are people that are beginning to write about this. I've seen some stuff from Europe and some other places, but I don't know. It's so sad because there's going to be, let me just say this. If the wrong person is elected governor in New York State in November, brace yourselves. There will be the mother of all lockdowns for Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm telling you, it will be mask back on kids. It will be this, that, and other. I'm telling you, trust me on this. If Kathy Hochul wins, there will be it will make what Andrew Cuomo did look like a Sunday school picnic.
Oh, Kathy Hochul. And then we could also talk about the gun legislation, but we're going to talk about that next time when we're together here with Kurt. Thank you for joining me on Sophie Scholl Roundtable.